Okay, so today we're really diving into cyberbullying. And, there's a lot of talk about it, but I found some really interesting stuff from Microsoft. And it surprised me because it's not what you'd expect. It's all from their support resources.
Yeah, it is interesting to think about it from their perspective, right? That
Yeah.
they're coming at it from, how do we help people who are dealing with this right now?
Yeah.
Not just the theory.
Exactly. And one of the first things they do is make this distinction between online harassment, which can be a one-time thing,
Yeah.
and then actual cyberbullying, where it's a pattern of behavior. Like they even say it's about creating a hostile environment online.
And that's something I think we don't always think about.
Oh.
Because it's online, it's like that hostile environment it doesn't stop when you log off. Yeah,
Yeah, it's like it follows you.
exactly.
It's funny, like I remember parents used to say, "Don't make me turn this car around." This is like if they could just turn the car around and keep going with that same energy.
Yes. And think about it. Words can hurt, even once, right?
Hmm.
But online, it's not just that initial hurt. It's the potential for it to stay there, be seen by other people, and even define someone's whole experience online. And that's a lot to carry around.
Oh, totally. And they give some rough examples in these Microsoft resources, like
Hmm.
spreading rumors, trying to publicly humiliate someone, and they talk about how hard it is to actually get that stuff scrubbed off the internet. Imagine being like, what, 14, 15, and feeling like something from years ago is still following you?
Yeah, especially these days when so much of our online identity
Yeah.
is all mixed up with our offline lives, right?
Yeah.
And it's interesting because they definitely talk about how tough this is on young people. But Microsoft is also really clear that adults get targeted too. Their definition of online harassment, it covers communication between adults too.
It's true. It's so easy to fall into that trap of thinking it's a kids these days problem, but the reality is anyone can be a victim, and I'd imagine the impact is just as bad no matter what your age.
Well, absolutely. And, because technology is so embedded in our lives now, cyberbullying can really reach into every part of an adult's life too. Work, relationships, even how safe and secure they feel online. It's a big deal.
Yeah, it is. And knowing all this, it's easy to feel kind of overwhelmed, like, what do we even do? But the good news is Microsoft also gives some concrete steps to start addressing this. And you know what they say? It starts with us, each of us.
It's funny. It's like that old saying, treat others how you want to be treated for the internet age.
Yeah. They actually call it being a good digital citizen, which basically boils down to if you wouldn't say it to someone's face, don't type it. We really have to think about how our actions online, even if they seem small, can have consequences in the real world.
It's about realizing our interactions online have real impact. It's like we have rules and social norms in our offline communities. We need those online too.
Yeah.
Building a culture of respect and empathy, even in digital spaces.
I love that. That's powerful. But it's not just about being nice online, though, right? Microsoft also talks about what to do if you actually see cyberbullying happening to address it head on. And this one really struck me. They emphasize talking to someone you trust.
Oh, that's so important. Parents, guardians, friends, even a counselor or therapist if you need to. And what I really liked is they even call out stomp out bullying.
Mm.
That tells me they're not just talking the talk, they're actually pointing people toward resources.
It's about recognizing that you don't have to go through this alone and that there are people out there who want to help. It's their job to help. And it's not just on the victim either, right? They talk about the bystander effect, how everyone who sees cyberbullying happening has a role to play in speaking up.
Yeah, silence can almost feel like you're on the bully side in those situations. Sometimes just one person saying, hey, that's not okay, can totally change things.
So true. So we've got speaking up, but what about if you need to take more concrete action? Like you said, it's happening right now. What does Microsoft say to actually do about it?
Well, the first thing they really emphasize is documenting everything, like saving the evidence. Because as we were saying, once it's online, it's hard to get rid of.
So we're talking screenshots, saving messages, that sort of thing.
Exactly. Anything that shows what happened, when it happened, who was involved. That's especially important if you end up having to report it either to the platform itself or even to law enforcement if it comes to that.
Which, to their credit, Microsoft is very upfront about if there are safety concerns, you get the authorities involved.
Absolutely, no question about it. And actually, while we're talking about reporting, they actually give some good advice for dealing with cyberbullying on other platforms, ones that aren't Microsoft.
Oh, that's interesting because it's not like this is just a Microsoft problem, right? It's everywhere.
Exactly. And what they say is actually pretty cool. Basically, if it's happening on another platform, you've got to contact that platform directly.
Makes sense. I guess each one has its own rules and ways of doing things. I'll be honest, I've seen those report this buttons, but I have no idea what happens after you click.
Right. So what happens is when you report something, it goes to the platform's moderators. And these are real people. Their actual job is to look at that content and decide what to do.
And what can they do? It's not like they can reach through the screen and, I don't know, ground someone.
Chuckles. No, but they do have some pretty powerful tools. It really depends on the platform's rules and how bad the behavior is.
Yeah.
But they can do things like give a warning to the user who's doing it. They can take down the content. And in really serious cases, they can even suspend or completely ban the account.
Wow, so they're not messing around.
No, they're not. And I think it's because they're realizing how much cyberbullying can hurt people and how it makes their platform look bad too. They have a responsibility to make it a safe environment, and cyberbullying is a big part of that.
It's like they're starting to see that the online world is just an extension of our offline communities, and the same rules have to apply.
Exactly. So we've talked about what to do if you see cyberbullying happening. But Microsoft also spends a lot of time on what to do if it's your child who's involved, either as the victim or the bully, and that's where it gets really tricky.
Oh, for sure, because you're a parent, you want to protect your kid, but you want them to learn from this, to grow from it. Where do you even start?
Well, the biggest thing Microsoft emphasizes is communication, really listening to your child and what they're going through without judging.
Mm.
And that's tough because kids, they feel scared or embarrassed,
Hmm.
or they worry that if they tell you, they'll get in trouble, so they don't say anything.
I can see that, especially if they think you're going to take away their phone or internet access, which honestly is probably the first thing a lot of parents think of doing.
Right. But it's about creating that safe space so they do open up. And then working with them to figure out what to do. Microsoft actually talks about making a plan with your child, which I thought was really smart.
A plan, so it's not just the parent taking over, it's a team effort.
Exactly. Like asking them, what can we do to help? Oh, ooh. That makes them part of the solution, so they have some control. And that can be huge for kids.
That's a good point because when you're being bullied, it can feel like you have no control at all.
Exactly. And while that empowerment is super important, Microsoft also says it's okay to get professional help too if you need it. Therapists, counselors, school psychologists, they're all trained for this. They can help families navigate these situations and just provide support.
It's good to have those resources to know they're there. So we've talked about supporting a child who's being bullied, but what about the flip side? What if it's your kid who's the bully?
That is so hard for parents, and it's something Microsoft actually talks about directly.
Because it's easy to be defensive, right? My kid would never.
Exactly. But as Microsoft points out, it's not the child, it's the behavior that's the problem.
Yeah.
Kids are going to mess up, they test boundaries, they don't always know better,
Hmm.
and sometimes they might do something that's bullying without realizing how much it hurts.
So how do you separate the action from the kid themselves? How do you deal with the behavior in a way that actually teaches them, not just punishes them?
Microsoft suggests focusing on helping the child understand the impact of what they did and giving them a way to make amends, like writing an apology letter, doing something nice for the person they hurt, finding ways to repair the harm.
So it's about taking responsibility and trying to make things right.
Yeah, and that can be a huge lesson for kids, not just about how their actions affect others, but also about having empathy and learning how to deal with conflict in a healthy way.
Which is what we all want, right? For kids to grow up to be good people online and offline.
Absolutely. And that actually brings us to another thing Microsoft talks about that I think is really important. What if you're in a situation where you don't feel comfortable talking to the parents, like you're a friend, or you see something concerning online? What do you do then?
That is a tough one because, yeah, you want to respect people's privacy, but also if it's bad enough, you don't want to just sit there and let it happen.
Right. And it's especially hard for kids, right? Like they've got peer pressure.
Yeah.
And they might be scared to get their friend in trouble, so they don't say anything.
Yeah, they don't want to be that friend.
Exactly. But what I think is really cool is that Microsoft actually addresses that. They say straight up, if you don't feel comfortable going to parents, find another adult you do trust.
So, like, another adult who can actually do something, right? Not just another friend who's also going to be afraid to say something.
Right. Someone who can actually figure out what's going on and how serious it is.
A teacher, a counselor, maybe even another friend's parent.
Exactly. And this is important. They even say, if you're really stuck, you could reach out to an organization like Stomp Out Bullying directly. Remember, those are the folks who deal with this stuff all the time is what they do.
It's good to remember that sometimes you got to call in the professionals, right? They know what they're doing. Okay, so before we wrap up this deep dive, I want to go back to something we were talking about earlier, about cyberbullying being a kid problem. But from everything Microsoft's saying, it really isn't, is it?
Not even a little bit. It's like any other social issue. It just happens to be playing out online. And that's why I think that whole digital citizen idea that Microsoft talks about is so important.
It's like we're all still figuring out how to act online, what the rules are, and just like in real life, it's about being thoughtful, treating people with respect, which I know, easier said than done sometimes.
Definitely.
Yeah.
But it's something to aim for, right? The more we have these conversations, not just about what not to do, but how to make the internet a better place for everybody, the better off we'll all be.
100%. Well, this has been really eye-opening for me, I gotta say.
Me too. It's one thing to know cyberbullying is bad, but it's another thing to really get into it,
Yeah.
how it works, how to actually deal with it.
And I was really impressed with Microsoft, too. They didn't shy away from the hard stuff at all.
No, they didn't. It's like they really thought about this from all angles, which I appreciate.
Yeah, we need more of that. Okay, so last thought before we sign off. We talked about how Microsoft defines cyberbullying as a pattern of behavior, but it also made me think, where do we draw that line? Because even one awful thing online, especially for a young person, that can leave a real mark.
That's so true, and that goes back to why being a good digital citizen matters. It's bigger than just don't break these specific rules. It's about thinking about how you're impacting other people.
It's about intent, isn't it? Like if you say something hurtful on purpose, even once, that's still not okay.
Right. It's about whether you're adding to the good in the world or the bad.
Something to think about for sure. And on that note, we'll leave you all to do just that. This has been our deep dive on cyberbullying using these awesome resources from Microsoft. Thanks for joining us.